And that's a wrap for January. Let's talk about all of the books that I read this month. There's 21 of them, so grab a snack and let's get into it. Welcome friends, welcome back to the channel. I am gonna get right into going over these books. January just started out with a bang. I read so many good books. I had 2 5-star reads and I'm gonna start with those. I have so many good things to say about so many of these. The Lamb by Lucy Rose. I gave this book 5 stars. It is so bold and so disturbing in a way that I just love as I read a book. It follows a young girl and her mother who live very much off the grid, and they eat the people who wander across their doorstep. No sugarcoating, they eat them. The mother and daughter have a very strong bond together. It's been just the 2 of them for quite a while. But when one random stranger wanders across their doorstep and they don't eat her, the family dynamic begins to change. This book is very, very descriptive and just gross, so if you're sensitive to that, you might want to skip it. But overall, it's just such a unique and well-told story, and the chapters are super short. I flew through this book, and I just honestly loved it. At the very end, I closed the book and I was like, that was so good, 4.5 stars. And then it stuck with me, and I sat with it, and I went back and I was like, how could I not give this 5 stars? I loved it, and I have no negative things to say about it. So this is a win. Love, love, love. The next book that I gave 5 stars, let me find it, is this one, Convergence by Kearstin Dunn. I haven't had a chance to talk about this one yet on any of my channels, and I loved this book. This was the type of book that I instantly fell in love with the characters. 2, I was immersed in the storyline and so invested in what was going to happen. And 3, you get to a point where like you're really close to finishing the book, but I was reading it so slow because I just didn't want it to end. So it's a dystopian world where the city lives underground. The above ground land has become uninhabitable, and they're underground in what they call the burrows. In this story, people bond to animals and are gifted specific types of magic. When every child turns 18, they take part in the Convergence, which is the bonding ceremony. And these kids go into this ceremony and they see if they can bond with an animal, if an animal chooses them, and if they come out of it unbonded, they are banished to the world, to the upper world, up there, where basically it's uninhabitable, so they're sent to die. We're following 2 lifelong best friends, Lennon and Wilder, and they are both getting ready to go to their Convergence ceremony. That's all I'm gonna say about this book, just because I feel like it's so much more exhilarating if you go into the rest of it blind. I do believe if you read the back of the book, it gives a little bit more detail away about what happens during the ceremony, but go in blind is so much better. I laughed at this book, I cried at this book, I loved this so much. I can't wait for a second book to come out. Highly recommend. Another book that really just blew me away, I feel like I should probably give this one 5 stars, but I gave it 4.5. It's The Push by Ashley Audrain, and I waited so long to read this and finally did, and I can't believe that I missed out on this for as long as I did. It did take me a minute in the beginning to get into the writing style, but once I grabbed onto that, I couldn't put it down, and I read this in a day. It's about a mother who is in that gray space after postpartum and having a baby where like you just don't feel like yourself and all of your emotions and hormones are just crazy out of whack. But she begins to think that something might be wrong with their daughter. Not physically wrong, like psychologically wrong. The husband disagrees with her and thinks that it's all in her head, and so she tries to ignore it and move on with her life. But years down the road, when they have a second child and something very tragic happens to their family, she begins to really buckle down on her suspicions that something is for sure wrong with her daughter. This book is an incredible emotional roller coaster ride. I was confused. Like I was like, is this a psychological thriller or is this just a book that is meant to rip my heart out, because it was such an emotional read. But honestly, fantastic. I loved this. So I have 2 books by Audrey J. Cole that I read. First, I read The Trip, and I have to say I wasn't the biggest fan of this one. This is a trope that is just really hard for me to like. It has to be super well done for me to like it. We have a group of 5 girls, and 20 years ago they were best friends in school. They all went on this trip together, and one of them died on the trip, did not make it home, and it's just kind of been like a mysterious like what really happened to her on that trip kind of vibe. But all these years later, it's been 20 years, and the remaining girls are reuniting once again to go on this like boat trip, and basically the past events start coming up and coming to light. I just didn't love the friendship dynamic in this book. I really felt like all of these girls hate each other. Why are they even friends in the first place? Was it a bad book? No, but it definitely wasn't my type of book. But then I picked up another book from her because the synopsis of this one just sounded so good, and I really did enjoy this one. It's called The Recipient, and the title plays into this. So in this book, there was a very notorious serial killer who, after he was executed, he was an organ donor. So a part of his brain was a donated organ, and the man that received that brain transplant, his wife begins to think that he inherited traits from this serial killer. There's the wife's point of view, there's a detective point of view, there's some murders going on in this book that they're investigating. This was just really unique and really different, and I very much enjoyed this one. Despite the fact that I didn't like the first book I read from her, I loved this one, and I will read more from this author for sure. Theo of Golden by Alan Levi. This was a super heartfelt story. It's about an old Portuguese man who moves to the small town of Golden. Inside of a coffee shop, he notices that a local artist paints portraits of like the locals in the town and puts them up for sale in this coffee shop. Theo begins to purchase these and gift them to the rightful owner, the person who's drawn in the portrait. With every portrait that he gifts, it's a friendship is born. He really begins to make a name for himself in this small town by knowing and loving all of the town's inhabitants, and it's really just such a heartfelt story. Like I said, it has lots of grief and love and friendship, and it was really good. I don't know what more to say. It was really good. I started off the beginning of this month reading so many good thrillers. I'm gonna go through a bunch of them. The Hitchhikers by Chevy Stevens. So good. It takes place in the 1970s, and it follows a husband and wife who are getting into their brand new RV, and they're taking a trip along the Canadian highways. Along the way, they come across two young hitchhikers, and they pick them up, and they're traveling together, and it becomes a crazy hostage situation when they learn that these two young people are actually wanted for murder. This one was awesome. Chevy Stevens just never disappoints me, and this was a great book, like an intense ride from page 1 till the very end. I loved everything about this. My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. I feel like this book is like taking the internet by storm right now. Everyone is talking about this book, and for good reason. I thought it was awesome. It's about a wife who is out on a run one morning, and when she gets back to her house, her key does not fit in the lock, and some strange woman answers the door from inside and is basically claiming to be her. She goes to the police station to explain what's going on, and they don't seem to believe her. This was just a mind-boggling story. Like, it was so twisty and so different, and I just really felt like the plot got crazier and crazier, and at the end, the plot twists that it delivers makes you want to just reread the entire story. Anatomy of an Alibi by Ashley Elston. This one follows two women who switch places in order to create an alibi. One of the women, her husband, is very mysterious, and she's really suspicious that he's up to no good, and so she asks another woman to pretend to be her for a little while so that she can have an alibi while she goes off and tries to figure out what her husband is up to. Both of these women have hidden agendas. Both of them have separate stories. This was just a great book. I feel like if you enjoyed First Lie Wins, is that what it's called? From this author, then you're gonna enjoy this one too. The writing style is very similar, and the story just hits the same in a good way. It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. I loved this one. This is another one I feel like everyone is talking about. It follows a family. They're on a vacation together in like this secluded lakeside cabin location. And when one of the main characters hears a scream from the cabin next door, she goes over to investigate and finds her, is it her brother and sister-in-law? or her sister and brother-in-law. One of the two, she finds that they have been murdered in their cabin, and of their two children, the boy is upstairs sleeping, didn't hear any of the commotion, and he's unharmed, and the daughter is missing. Nobody knows where she is. The investigation in the story was just so much fun, like finding out, first of all, what happened, who did this, why was the boy left upstairs untouched, where is the girl, and why is she missing, how come nobody can get in touch with her? Like, all of these like little plot points of the story were just so captivating. I loved this book. I do have a couple of books that I really just didn't enjoy, unfortunately. Usually I'm good at like DNFing a book and just moving on, but for some reason I powered through some of these, and I don't know why. Near the Bone by Christina Henry. This book made me so angry. This one was just not for me. I am very surprised that I finished it. It's about a woman who's trapped on a mountain with a man who basically kidnapped her, and she's forced to be his wife, and it's a very sad, held captive life that she's in, and it's a super secluded place out in the middle of nowhere. There is a monster out in the woods, like a supernatural style of monster, and her and her husband go to investigate it, and they come across some strangers who have also hiked up the mountain to investigate it, and it's clear to them that the woman like kind of needs help, so they interfere. I felt like all of the characters in the story, like all of them, I felt like they just reacted really strangely to the situation that they were all in. Like, I felt myself like rolling my eyes constantly, and it was just such a strange book. Like I said, I really don't know why I finished this one, but it wasn't for me. I have so many friends that loved this book, and typically we like a lot of the same books, so it just goes to show that sometimes the book's just not going to be for you, and that's okay. Against Their Will by Carolyn Courtney Lawman. This one didn't grip me. It took me pretty much the entire month to read this book because I just like didn't really feel compelled to pick it up. It was good in the beginning, and then something about the writing style just lost me, although I did enjoy like the concept of the story. It's about two young girls who are on a road trip, and their car breaks down in a really sketchy area, so they go into a local bar for help, and these two sleazebags offer them help and end up taking them captive, and really brutally torturing them and mistreating them in ways that make me say be sure to check the trigger warnings in this book because it's extremely dark and descriptive. The girls get away, and one of the men is sent to many years in jail, but all of these years later they're adults now, and word just got out that the man is about to be released from prison, and he's made some threats saying that he's gonna come back to them for revenge. Loved the premise, didn't love the execution of the story or the writing style, so it took me a long time to read this one. The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff. I enjoyed this book, but I really expected a lot more for it. I thought it was going to be like a very heavy emotional punch, and it actually didn't deliver that for me. It follows a married couple whose marriage kind of begins to fall apart because of lies that were kept. He actually has a very bad alcohol addiction that he never told her about, and she has a previous child that she never told him about. So their marriage was based on lies, things are falling apart, and you get the point of view of both the wife, the husband, and the point of view of their young daughter when she's older. Nothing bad about it, I just didn't love it personally. A book that I absolutely loved was Lost Girls of Hollow Lake by Rebekah Faubion. This one was so atmospheric in the best way. It's about a group of girls who go on a school trip, and on this school trip they take a boat out to this island that has a lot of like folklore and legend, and they get lost on this island for 46 days. Everyone is looking for them, they can't find them, they don't know how to get off this island. But when they finally do get off and make it back home, only 5 of them return. There was 8 total, only 5 of them come back. These girls are now the talk of the town, everybody wants to know what happened, and they've come up with this story to put together to tell the authorities so that they're all like on the same page with their lies. But suddenly they're noticing that everyone that had something to do with their initial disappearance is now being picked off one by one, and they're in danger. I typically don't love books like this when they have too many characters because it becomes a lot for me to keep up with, but this one was just so well done and I enjoyed everything about this. It was so atmospheric and so mysterious, and I had a really good time with this book. The Obsession by Natasha Preston. This one is more like YA, but I really enjoyed this one. This one is about a mom and her two daughters, and they're an influencer family. The mom is a vlogger. Every single thing that she does, she records and puts online. When the mom and older daughter go on a trip, they leave the younger daughter at home by herself, and she has no protection and no supervision and possibly a stalker. Then suddenly, girls around town that look a lot like her are turning up dead, and she's scared. This book was just very quick, very entertaining, such an easy book to read. I find that all of her books are just really easy to power through, although I will say that I feel like the ending will probably piss you off because it's very abrupt. I read The Fairweather Friend by Jessie Garcia. Loved this one. This is about a TV news reporter. She's a weather reporter, and she is so loved by the community. People are obsessed with her. They have fan clubs for her, and like, she's just very well loved. Well, one day on her dinner break, she leaves the office and never comes back. The next day, they find her body. The town and the fans and the fan group are absolutely reeling and want to know what happened. The story follows through the point of views of some of the fans, some of her family members, and some of her co-workers. If you liked The Business Trip by this author and the way that it was like set up as it was telling the story, this one I found to be very similar. So if you liked that one, I think you'll enjoy this one too. I thought it was great, and I also read this one in a day. I powered through this book. The Boy in the Photo by Nicole Trope. This one was really good. I did expect a little bit more psychological aspect though. This is about a woman whose son was taken by her husband when he was just 6 years old. They were never able to find them and locate them, but 6 years later they find him and he's back, but he doesn't seem to be the same boy. Like, it's different. He's creepy. It's got creepy kid vibes, although I wanted it to have a little bit more creepy kid vibes. So yeah, I needed more from this one, but it was really good. Love Mom by Iliana Xander. I loved this book. I've seen very mixed reviews on this one, but I loved it. This is about a famous author, and she passes away and the story is told from her daughter. Her daughter begins receiving letters from her mom, and it opens up an entire can of suspicion. She begins to wonder if her mom's death really was an accident, and also who is delivering these letters to her one by one since her mom is gone. I thought this book just wrapped up super nicely in the end. Like, there were no loose ends, and I enjoyed this literally the whole way through. Cross My Heart by Megan Collins. I wasn't the biggest fan of this one. This is another organ donor situation. It's about a woman who receives a heart transplant, and she reaches out to the husband of the woman she got the heart from and kind of like obsesses over him a little bit. She's convinced that now that she has his wife's heart, they're like destined to be together. This one didn't really impress me too much. If I had to say something about it, I'd say like it was fine. It wasn't a bad book, but it just wasn't great for me. Then I have this little one, Klaria's Battle. This is only like 40 pages. Yeah, 44 pages or something like that. This is just a quick little read. It's weird. It's about a crab who 20-something years ago, her husband stole her shell, preventing her to go into her crab form and forcing her to live her life as his wife in her human form. And she needs to find her shell so that she could get back to the ocean and her family. This was just fun and the perfect example of the fact that like anything can be a story, and that reading is just so fun. The last book that I don't have a physical copy of this one. It's called Playing Nice by, I think it's J.P. Delaney, I want to say, but I don't have it in front of me, so I can't remember. This book was shocking at every single turn. It's about a family who have a young son, and they get a knock on the door one day, and it's someone telling them that their children were switched at birth, and that their son is actually not their son. These two families come together, they decide like, let's meet, let's have our children meet, let's figure out how we're gonna go about this. And the story just escalates and it turns extremely chaotic, and honestly everything gets out of hand. Like, this book had my jaw, like I was gasping as I was reading this and like certain things were happening. I highly recommend this book. I thought it was fantastic. I can't wait to get a physical copy so I could like have it on my shelf as a trophy. But yeah, loved this one. So, so, so good. And that's it. That's the 21 books that I read in January. This year is off to such an amazing start. I want to know what your favorite book that you read this month is, or if you've read any of these, let me know what you thought of them. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.